So, as you know, we're in the new studio, which is kind of cool. And what's interesting about this is that when you do have success, it actually brings new challenges.
Yes.
And that's what we've realized the last week or two. It's crazy. Like, this is a dream come true. But what's interesting is when you do have a dream come true, now you have to figure out how to play at that new level. So that said, let's start. So Hyperconscious Leadership Mastermind Week 9. Our primary objective with this is basically to answer a simple question. What are the 5 principles of hyperconscious leadership that we believe are most valuable from 370 plus episodes of the Hyperconscious podcast? And so Kevin and I are fortunate enough to, at this point, have interviewed over 100 people who we believe are world-class performers in their specific category. And then what are the commonalities, the common denominators that we've seen sort of from those people in terms of principles? The key here too, I want to say as well, whenever I've given a PowerPoint on leadership, I think a principle-centered life is always the first place to start. It's like some people who don't have their own core values and their own principles, they find it difficult at times to manage themselves when the world is changing rapidly. So lately with COVID and a lot of the things that are going on in the world right now, so many things in the external world are changing. And that's why we wanted to do this on leadership, is because the first principle is all leaders have vision and they always carve their own unique path. So they kind of have their own compass. And I've, given this PowerPoint several times. We all know Jack Sparrow. I absolutely adore this analogy. So there's that scene where they're in this huge storm and they're on the ship, and Jack Sparrow's the captain, and Orlando Bloom says to Mr. Gibbs, like, how are we supposed to find an island that no one can find with a compass that doesn't point north? Mr. Gibbs turns to him and says, the compass doesn't point north, but we're not trying to find north, are we? And so we all sort of have this inner compass, this inner knowing of our highest self that should guide us. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it source, God, the universe, you name it. But we do have that whisper inside of us. And so the magic formula is very simple. It's 3 main parts. Number 1 is your true north. In other words, what is your purpose? What is your unique reason for being here? That's number 1. Number 2 is a principle called Kanai, a commitment to constant and never-ending improvement. Number 3 is never quit. So what if you knew exactly why you're here? You guys have heard me talk a lot about my purpose prayer. Okay, you knew exactly why you were here. You committed to improve every single day in that specific direction, and you never quit. The byproduct of those 3 things would be a magnificent life. And so the key here is, I've often said this analogy, if you and your friend both want to do a puzzle, but one of you never got to see the cover, in other words, they had no vision, how much harder and how much longer would it be to put a puzzle together? Whereas if you did see the cover first, you had a vision, you could put the border in first, you'd understand where to put the pieces. The puzzle pieces are your daily actions, your daily thoughts, what you do and don't do. And so we wake up in the morning and a lot of things are going crazy in the outside world. How much are we still driving toward our vision? Because hopefully that vision is congruent with the collective betterment. And your daily actions are going to be dictated based on your vision. So you have to pick a target. I think one of the most misunderstood concepts, and you guys have heard me say this several times probably if you listen to the show, like I basically say this: people think life is about the journey, and it is. But driving from Boston to LA is very different than driving from Boston to Worcester. If life's about the journey, why not choose a destination in advance that will force you to embark on an epic journey? Because you're not going to look back on your life and regret trying new things and going off on this journey. What you're going to regret is not going off on a journey at all. And I am so convinced that most people don't have a target that they've chosen in advance. And the people that I do know that have done this are far more inner directed. And then when things happen in the world, they use that as awareness and learning to pivot. And when the storms come, it's like a sailboat in the ocean. When the storms come, they use the storms to propel them forward rather than to just stop and drift around. And so I often use this in my PowerPoint. So this is a vision that I had actually 3 years ago now. And I put this as my phone background. So this is Greg Plitt's physique. He's a hero of mine. He passed away, unfortunately, at age 36. But I remember watching videos of him, and I wanted that physique, and I knew in my heart that I could achieve something similar to that. Now, again, I put this on my phone background to trigger my subconscious mind with a reminder of my vision. So every single day when I woke up in the morning, I would see several times a day, my subconscious mind would see this physique of my dreams. Now, when I put this as my phone background, and yes, I did get made fun of for 2 full years for having a guy in my background, but this is what I looked like when I did that. I looked like this when I put that as my phone background, and I got made fun of, guys, a lot. Like, I talk about this a lot. Like, oh, you're a bodybuilder now? Like, you can't do that. He's on steroids. Like, it's never going to happen, right? I was repeatedly made fun of constantly. And that's not an exaggeration. I genuinely was. But I didn't care because I had a vision and I knew what I was doing. No one makes fun of me now for fitness. No one questions it now, right? And look how close those physiques are. If I didn't choose in advance when I looked like this to look like Greg Plitt, there's no possibility that person on the right would exist. It just is what it is. And we'll get into the deeper principles as to why that is with manifestation in the future. But the key here is if you don't have a vision, I want you to ask yourself this question. How clear are you on where you want to go and why you want to go there? That's hyperconscious question number 1. This is the vision of the podcast, the vision statement. The purpose of the Hyperconscious podcast is not only to create a life of freedom for Alan and myself, but to prove to countless others that they can have whatever they want in life that they're willing to work for. Through courage, consistency, character, and clarity, our goal is to help every listener define their own unique version of success and provide the tools, guidance, and support necessary to achieve it. So every single day, this guides Kevin and I. So we don't wake up in the morning and wonder what to do. Yeah, sometimes the tactics change and the approach changes, but the vision does not. We want to do this on a greater and greater level every single day. So if you don't have a vision board, I would highly recommend it. This one on the left here was my old one. And whenever I was in a dark place, I always try to create a compelling future, because if the past is painful and the present is painful, it's time to create a bigger, brighter future. So the second one is actually, I was in a dark moment. I had a fight with my ex, and I was in a really, really emotional place. And I was sitting there in my room just really feeling defeated. And I remember going, you know what? Like, screw this. Like, I know this is not for me anymore. It's time to up the ante. It's time to up my dreams. It's time to create a brighter future. Until you get fed up with the way you live today, you will never actually raise your standard for tomorrow. And that's an unfortunate truth in the personal development industry that people don't talk about enough. But if you're okay with your day-to-day now, you're not going to raise your standard, because this stuff is difficult. I was in a dark moment, and the past was painful. The present was painful, and I set a new standard for my future. And now you know that I've met someone who's far more congruent. And I guarantee you that happened because I had the courage to take my old vision board, cross out what was no longer relevant, cross out some of the things that I did achieve, and then up the ante on everything else. So who you are today, what you say, think, do, feel, believe, is actually a byproduct of a vision or a lack thereof. This is hard to understand, but your waistline to this moment is actually connected to the vision that you do or don't have for your future. The bank account that you have right now is actually connected to the vision you do or don't have for your future. If you wake up in the morning and one day you want to be financially free as a self-made millionaire, that's a very different life and a very different journey and a very different standard than if you wake up saying, I want to make $50,000 a year. People don't make $50,000 a year because that's what they want to do. It's because that's what they're currently aware of. If they knew how to make 150, they would do that. And so the key is, how do you reverse engineer the vision of the person you want to become and the journey you want to embark upon? And having a vision board is absolutely key. One thing I'll say here before I jump over to Kevin's part is there's several different types of goals. First of all, what are your goals making of you is huge. If you have no goals, I would highly, highly recommend looking into this. There's 4 types of goals. There's philanthropic goals, there's process goals, there's results goals, and then there's growth goals. So a growth goal would be, I want to be an incredible speaker. Okay. A process goal is, I want to give 1,000 speeches. A results goal is, I want to make $150,000 a year. A philanthropic goal is, I want to start a charity. Okay. So there's 4 types of goals, and you hammer them all on your vision board and shoot high. People don't fail in life because they aim too high and miss. They fail in life because they aim too low and they hit. So have the courage to set big, audacious goals and then learn how to elevate yourself to that level. Okay, principle number 2.
Little speech Alan showed up here.
Tried to.
Which one is forward, the top one or the bottom one?
Bottom.
Okay, I will forget that in several minutes. All right, so principle number 2 is, you will only grow to the level of your ambition. What is and Alan was saying, like, what are your goals going to make of you? If you're happy with the way that things are, you have no reason to grow, right? If you don't have ambitions for a better body, a better relationship, a better financial statement, a better life, a better job, more impact, then you have no reason to grow towards that. So up is next? Yeah. Down. Cool. All right.
It took them all 30 seconds.
Yes, yeah, I forget. I'm just going to keep my finger on it. So this is Alan and I at a Halloween party when we were 21 and 22 years old, respectively. I was hammered. Alan was hammered. And the guy wearing the Captain Morgan thing, I blacked out his face because he was really, really hammered. Now, when we were 21 and 22, this is what we did. And Alan and I weren't even friends at this point, really.
Right.
This is the first time we saw each other in a long time. But when we were at this party, this is what we did. And the reason is our goals reflected this. I wanted to have a good time. I wasn't trying to impact. I wasn't trying to leave a legacy. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to podcast. I didn't want any of those things. I wasn't clear in my future. You know, I had a lot of things in my current and my past that were holding me back. But that is where a lot of people live. A lot of people are trying to get through the week. They're trying to get to Friday and Saturday, and that's when they live it up. And if you're leading your life, then it's going to look different, right? So what is the difference between Alan and I in that picture? Blackout drunk on Halloween in somebody's house I'd never been to. I don't even remember where I slept that night, right? Like I have no idea what happened that night. What's the difference between that and this? Alan and I in David Meltzer's studio in Irvine, California. The same week we attended a Brendan Burchard event. I think it was a 3-day event, 2-day event, 4-day event. My goodness. So in that week, I think we interviewed 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
We interviewed Anthony Trucks. We interviewed David Meltzer, Kim and Spike Spencer,
Brant.
Dr. Nikki Starr, Brant Pinvidic. Like we were in Brant's house. We were at Dr. Nikki Starr's beach house in Malibu. Like we did so much that week. And we also attended a full immersion event. Now, those are all results of the dream. Like we didn't go to California to drive to Malibu. We went to California to learn and grow. Why? Because that is who we have to become in order to accomplish that. Now, right now, we're talking a lot about leading yourself. And at the end of the day, like I don't have a boss. Alan doesn't have a boss. It's up to us to make sure that our daily habits, our daily actions, our daily visions, our intentions, all of that is in alignment with the people that we want to become. So what is the difference between the picture you saw before and this? It's goals. It's dreams. It's ambitions. We are very, very clear on what we want. We tend to only do that. We don't really do much else because our lives are very well designed. And we're able to lead our own lives because it's a lot easier to lead your life when you know exactly what you're leading towards.
One thing I'll say real quick
I jeffed it.
is this seems like it's about us. It's not. These are the stories, and we can only speak from our own experience. But we want you to be thinking to yourself, like, how does this apply to me? Because Kevin and I mean, that 3 years ago, it's like not only is that a blast from the past looking at us at 21 and 22, that's a whole nother thing. But like 3 years ago, we're about to go into some slides about that. It's crazy what can happen when you actually ignite your dreams and actually lean into them. And honestly, it's beyond what we could have fathomed at the time. So this is not about us. These pictures and experiences and stories will be about us that we're going to speak to, but we want you to be thinking about like, what does this mean for me? And by the way, the ripple effect of who you must become is impacting all of those around you. And so one thing I want to say as well is if you don't see yourself as a leader, I would argue that that's a big mistake because you do impact those around you. I know that when I stopped drinking, so many of my closest associations also stopped drinking. And so that's just one tiny example. I also know countless people who now read books because I started reading them. That is not an ego thing. Oh, who are you to read books? And now everyone does. No, the point is this. You influence those around you, and those around you influence you. The question is, are you influencing them in a positive way? We all have that loved one who we wish took better care of themselves. We all have that loved one who we wish would read a personal development book. And so it's like we can't tell them to do it, but we can lead by example. You can't lead a horse to water. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But here's the thing. I actually don't fully believe that. You can show them by your own example how delicious water is. And that's what Kevin and I are trying to do here. And that's why if it seems like it's about us, it's really not. It's about you.
Fire. I don't know if I'm next or if you're next. Yes. Hyper-conscious question number 2. If you could live any life 10 years from now, what would that look like? And this is just as important, if not more important. Are you willing to grow for it? I could very easily say right now, I want to be a billionaire. But am I willing to do what it takes to be a billionaire? Do I want to start a giant corporation? I could very easily say I want to do a bodybuilding show. Am I willing to go through the hell that I've gone through? I'm not. I'm simply not. Now, that's fine. But if you decide that you want something out of life in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, make sure that you're willing to put in the effort that it takes to get there. And be honest with yourself too. Like, this is where leading yourself comes in. Because at the end of the day, I know Alan cares whether, like, how far I go. I know Taryn cares. I know you guys care. But it's not your job to hold me accountable to that, right? And, it's, you guys have your own things going on. You can't be worrying about me all the time. So this is episode number 7 of the Hyperconscious podcast. It is called Chase Your Effing Dreams. Yes, I named it that. This was June 15th in 2017, almost 3 years ago to the day. Next week, this will be 3 years ago. And the reason this slide is here is because I just said, imagine what you want your life to be like, to look like, to feel like in 10 years. This was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I said this. And in this episode, I was done with work. I was sick of working for somebody else. I was burning down. I was miserable. I said in this episode, in however many years in the future, I want to podcast full time. I want to wake up when I want. I want to go to the gym when I want. And I want to be able to interview amazing people. And that's what I want my life to be. I want to have an amazing relationship where I can spend time with the people I love when I want. I want to make my own schedule. That was 3 years ago. Okay, that was 3 years ago. And for the first year and a half, I didn't know what I was doing. Really, I was learning how to be an entrepreneur. I was learning how to lock in my habits. Guys, again, this isn't about us. I can only show you examples from me because I know what's actually going on behind the scenes. If you commit to becoming the best version of yourself, if you find something greater than you that you are willing to die for, like, that's how seriously Alan and I take this. Now, maybe that's not how you feel yet, but if you have that thing that you get out of bed for, I get up at 5:15 because I want to, because I like it, because I'm excited. When you're excited about chasing that dream, when you're excited about impacting people and talking to people every week, your life becomes infinitely different. And my life now is the life that I designed. Again, not about me. You guys can do the exact same thing, especially considering you're already further along in your personal development journey than I was. At that point, I had barely read any books. I had done 7 podcast episodes. I wasn't the man I am today by any stretch of the imagination. I think you're up next. I think.
The other thing too that's interesting about this is back then, Kevin, how long were you? I mean, you traveled the previous year 10 months out of 12, right?
Yes.
So he had no control over his own time. What he was doing with his time was not what he wanted to do. What if you actually could design a life around what you love to do? That doesn't mean you're always going to love it, because a lot of this has been ridiculously hard.
Yes.
But I will say that, like, I am so grateful that we set those visions early and then did whatever it took to get to where we are now. I mean, I remember you just posted in Hyperconscious Nation about the studio and how it's like, if our goal was to get a studio and that was our only goal. Oh, is it?
I think. No, maybe not.
Oh, it's coming up.
Okay.
To be continued on that. And then go into that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Principle number 3, leaders have huge imaginations and believe in possibilities beyond their current circumstances. This is the other thing that's really important right now because of how challenging this moment in history is. Very, very challenging for a lot of people. And I have unbelievable empathy for that. And I keep asking myself, like, what can I do to make a positive difference in the lives of others? Here's the thing. It's almost like if you're in pain right now, let's use this as an opportunity to figure out the root cause of that pain and then not only heal it within ourselves, but then help other people heal theirs as well. And one of the things that I do think is super important right now in the world is leadership. And that's part of literally me asking myself that question and Kevin asking himself that question. That's why this PowerPoint even exists, is because we're trying to figure out, like, how can we help, do our part during this difficult time in history. So leaders have huge imaginations and believe in possibilities beyond their current circumstances. If all of your decisions are based on what exists now, you're stuck. If you don't have a vision for a better body than you have right now, why would you go to the gym? So something as simple as that.
That's a Haas.
It's a Haas.
Yeah.
The horse of habit. Actually,
Haas.
that's the horse of habit.
Right.
So current versus imagined. I wish I could see you better. Turn this way.
Give it a little, Jeff.
A little turn to the right. Okay. So I often say this in my speeches. Cars were only imagined when there were only horses. Henry Ford, there's that famous quote of, like, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Okay, so horses exist. Cars are no such thing. Henry Ford, in his imagination, has cars in his imagination. Now it becomes real. Okay, so when horses were the only things that existed, cars were imagined. Now, when cars existed, airplanes were only imagined. When airplanes existed, spaceships were only imagined. What are we imagining today? And again, it comes back to that vision piece. If you have to see it to believe it, you will never take action. You must believe it before you see it. It's actually a must. If you don't believe you'll ever get to LA, why would you even start? Okay. Steve Jobs, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Now, you don't have to want to change the world in the sense that he did, but you do have to want to change your world. There's this great quote by James Allen in a book called As a Man Thinketh. Super simple book, 75 pages, unbelievably powerful book. I've literally read this a dozen times or more. He says, people are so eager to change their circumstances, but reluctant to change themselves and therefore remain bound. We are all guilty of this at certain times. Manifestation in the purple elephant. Okay, so I'm going to go into a slide that Kevin just made for me. Thank you, brother.
You're very welcome.
This is a powerful slide. So we have a system called the PEMS system, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And I want to give credit where it's due. Alex Hinkle, Kevin, and myself are in a room in Florida. We've got gamma rays on, and we're just masterminding. And this came out. Yeah.
That was honestly, that was one of the most difficult cognitive situations I've ever been in. Like, I was way in over my head. But I hung in there, and now I know things.
Great things came of it.
Yeah.
So I say manifestation, the purple elephant. So I'm imagining in my mind right now. We hear the word manifestation, right? And it sounds kind of woo-woo, and it's like, what does that even mean? I'm telling you, it's actually way more practical than any of us realize. And at one point, I thought it was woo-woo too. So I'm imagining in my mind right now a purple elephant with a double-barrel shotgun and a cowboy hat on. Now, my version of this purple elephant is literally different than the one in your mind right now, different than the one in Kevin's mind, okay? Now, if we look at this slide, this purple elephant is only in the spiritual. That energy is in my imagination. That's it, just my imagination. Now, if I emotionalize it and take action and strategize on how to create it, get a crayon and piece of paper, now all of a sudden I take action and I draw it. Now, the skill development of how to draw is the denominator here, but here's the point. I took something that existed only in the spiritual and made it into the physical reality. You ever heard of Barney? This is how everything is created. When do you start building the house? After it's already designed. You have a blueprint first. Then you start laying bricks. You don't just wake up in the morning and start laying bricks. Some of us do that in our life. Let's be real. We wake up in the morning, we start laying bricks. We have no idea why we're even doing it. Okay? So in your imagination, you have something. That's the third dimension. Now I'm going to get into this. Now this slide can be super overwhelming. I'm going to go through it super fast. The first dimension is the imagination. That's the spiritual. Okay? The part you cannot see, hear, taste, touch, or smell. Those are our five senses. This is intuition, the sixth sense, spiritual. Okay? So imagine in your mind's eye something you want to create in your future. It can be a better body, more money, better relationship, whatever. Okay? That's the first dimension. You must believe in that enough to emotionalize it. Now, where your emotions live is where your beliefs live. Okay? Do you believe it's possible? Do you believe it's possible for you? And do you believe it will be worth it? That last one's the hard one. Will it be worth all the hard work? Then you have to strategize, right? Make your decisions with your heart, but then strategize with your mind. How does it actually work? How do I actually get a crayon and draw? Should I use Sharpie? Should I use, right? Strategy, okay? You can go, I heard earlier today, I was listening to Tony Robbins. He said, I don't care how bad you want to see a sunset. If you're doing it going east, you're doing it wrong. And it's like some people have the wrong strategy. They think they're not motivated. No one's motivated when you have the wrong strategy and get no results. Then you have to take physical action. Now, this is self-discipline. You don't have to feel like it. You don't have to want to do it. You just have to do it because you want the result that bad. Hyperconscious question number 3. What's something that exists in your life today that was at one point just a dream? This studio is a great example of that. And what's something you want in your future? We want all of you to up the ante because who you are today is a byproduct of the vision you've had for yourself. At one point, you wanted to maybe get a degree. You wanted to go to school. You wanted to drive a car. I remember you said that you wanted to drive a Subaru WRX. Imagine if you wanted to drive a Ferrari, which you do.
Excuse me. Mercedes. AMG.
Oh, Mercedes. I
Ferrari's
apologize.
not for the kid.
The point is that your goals are going to dictate what you do and don't do, say and don't say, think and don't think, believe and don't believe. Like, for example, let's say you believe that Mercedes are only for people who are quote unquote have college degrees. That limiting belief will not be eliminated until you decide and believe that you can do it. And so this stuff, the vision, is going to uncover parts of you that you didn't even know were there that were holding you back. So this studio you guys are now seeing, at one point this was just a picture that Kevin showed me of like, this is what I want our studio to look like one day. And now you're looking at the manifestation of what was once just a vision in our hearts and our minds.
I was thinking of this. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I watch some weird television sometimes, but like probably 10, 12 years ago, Evel Knievel's son jumped over the Grand Canyon on a motorcycle. Okay. Using the manifestation, PEMS, if you reverse that, okay, spiritual, emotional, mental, and then physical. He imagined like, imagine what it would be like if I could take this dirt bike and jump across the Grand Canyon. Like, imagine what that would be like. And then he started to emotionalize, like I could do so many things. We could do a television show. How many people would watch it? He emotionalized what it would be like to do that and what an amazing feat it would be. Then they strategized. How fast would I have to go? Is that even doable? What kind of ramp would I have to have? I have to go talk to the Native American reservation because this is on Native American land. And then they took action on it and he did it. That was literally a thought. Now, what would happen if he didn't believe it was possible? He never would have done it because he would have died. He would have died if he didn't believe he could do it. And I think that's where a lot of people are. And you just have to build that belief up. And at the end of the day, you're not jumping a dirt bike across the Grand Canyon. Maybe you're opening a business. It's different. Like if you don't make it the first time, you don't die. You get to go back and say like, oh, you know what? Today sucked. This week sucked. This month sucked. But like there's always a next month if you do it right. So
Fire analogy.
Well, you know, analogies are it's the whole thing. This one is probably my favorite. We did an episode on this recently, leading with your heart. Great leaders make decisions with their heart and strategize with their head, not the other way around. So this is our amazing team, Jeffrey, Tiffany, Amy, and myself. Anytime that we have an opportunity to lead our team, we try to lead with our hearts. Okay. So there's been a couple times where, you know, Amy will have schoolwork that she has to do. Or, you know, she'll say, I need some R&R. I need some self-care. Take that. Take that. That is more important. Alan and I always say family first. Family's the most important thing. I want to get back on my Sundays away where I don't look at my phone anymore because that was like, I was religious about that. I've been sliding on that a little bit. Tiffany rebuilt our website. She did an amazing job. We appreciate you so much. But last weekend, she messaged me and said, hey, I'm supposed to be away with my family. Is it okay if I'm a couple days late on the website? Of course. Of course it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'm thinking with my heart, not my mind. I'm not thinking, well, what if we lose clients? Are we losing money? Like, if you think that way, you're going to hurt the people that work with you. And notice how I said work with you, not work for you. I have people that they take care of the teaser clips for us. They take care of the show notes. The lady who does the show notes was a couple hours late today because she lost internet and it took her 6 hours to download the file. I said, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Like it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, the relationship with the people that we work with is just as important as the result, because the better the relationship is, the better the results will be. And that is what's happening now in terms of leadership. Leadership is changing. Leadership is not make sure the people that work with you or for you are afraid of you. That's not what it is anymore.
No.
That used to work, but now there's so many opportunities that if you don't treat your employees, your partners, the people that work with you, if you don't treat them well, they're going to leave. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Again, I should probably know the study before I say it, but there was a study on happiness in the workplace. And I believe number one was the environment and the people. And I believe finances were like number 3 or number 4.
Right.
So I'm sure you guys have felt that way. I'm sure if you didn't feel valued at a job, you probably didn't enjoy it that much. Alan and I both made more than enough money, and it wasn't enough because I wasn't happy. Alan wasn't happy.
Right.
It wasn't in alignment with our values. I'm hitting the wrong button. I'm hitting the pointer. Are you leading the way you want to be led, and what are your leadership values? They say treat others the way you want to be treated. I say treat others better than you want to be treated, right? But it crosses over into leadership. It's not my job to scare people I'm working with. It's my job to let them know that I'm here for them, especially when things are going wrong. If you have a bad day and you don't get something to us that we expected, it's not the end of the world. We'll pivot because we have bad days too. Right? We have bad days where we don't get the stuff done that we want to. These are our hyper-conscious morals and values that we live through every day. Authenticity. I don't ever want to get in front of this camera. I don't ever want to get on this microphone. I don't want to get on stage. I don't want to get on a podcast and tell you guys I'm something I'm not. I know Alan mirrors that. Growth mindset. Like, look at who we surround ourselves with. We want to be as good as humanly possible when it comes to personal development, podcasting, speaking, coaching, all of that. So it's important to us that people that work with us are also there, because that also helps us flex our teaching muscles, where we can teach people that work with us all about growth. Lack of entitlement and humility. There are some things that you deserve, but like in our opinion, most of the things you deserve are the things that you work for. And we have worked for everything that we have, and we expect other people to understand that, like, you know, there are really no free rides, right? If you're willing to put your head down and grind, we will be there with you every step of the way. But it's when people say like, well, I deserve this because I'm this. I want this because, you know, I want something for nothing. That doesn't work for us. It just isn't that way for us, because we try to remain very humble. Now, do our egos flare up? Of course they do. But when they do, they don't stay that way for long, because Alan and I don't mesh very well when that happens. Resilience. I have never quit tattooed on my arm. My one word is resilience. Like, when it comes to people I work with, I love people that are able to like handle tremendous pressure. That's just the way. I just value that so much, because I know how easy it is to run away from pressure, to run away from pain, to run away from fear. And I truly believe that if you can face fear, you can face anything. And that is one of the biggest things. Like, if you want to be successful, if you want to lead yourself, it's your job to get out of your comfort zone. It's your job to get rid of those limiting beliefs and really, really grow. Legacy. That's Alan's most important word. That's his one word, legacy. And long-term impact. Again, we're not in this for the short dollar. We're in this to master as much as we can and help as many people as humanly possible. I told Alan today, my goal is to help 1 billion people, at least 1 billion people. That's a lot of people, but I think it's possible. If we keep showing up, we're doing 5 episodes a week. We're going to do this. We're going to do speaking. We're going to do coaching. I think that's possible. And anybody on the team, I want them to be able to help with that. And I want to help them accomplish their goals as well. And a giving heart. Like, we do a lot for other people, but I love doing it, right? I absolutely love doing it. My question to you guys is, would you do what you're doing right now if you weren't getting paid? Number one. And how long would you do that for? Would there be enough fulfillment in that for you to keep going? Because again, and this isn't about Alan and I, but we are the examples that we can use. I didn't make money for 2 years after I started this show. And I still was the most fulfilled version of myself I'd ever been, because I was growing and I was constantly contributing. It's not about the money. The money's going to come, but it's about the relationships. It's about the fulfillment. It's about the impact. So many amazing things have happened to me because of this show. And that's because I want to have a giving heart. And I don't care who knows it either. I don't do it so people know. I do it because it makes me feel good.
Powerful. So the last one is principle number 5. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And honestly, I think this one is absolutely critical. One thing I want to say before we jump into this one that's so important is, okay, so far we've gone through a couple things, and I want a few things to be highlighted here. How many people, and you don't have to answer this out loud, but like, how many of you actually know your core values as an individual? Then how many of you actually know the core values of your intimate relationship? And then how many of you actually know the core values of your business, if you have one, or of your career? And so it's just, clarity is everything in leadership. When things in the external world go crazy, how clear are you on your own inner compass, your own true north, and your own core values? How do you know if something's outside of alignment if you don't know what your core values are? My personal ones are personal development, natural health and fitness, having massive dreams congruent with one's highest purpose and greatest level of contribution, humility and action, a giving heart, and what's the last one? Natural health and fitness. Did I already say that?
I don't think so.
Oh, personal development. So those are my 6. When I realized those core values, it became very, very clear to me who I no longer should be spending time with. And the reason why I wanted to say this is because when you get clear on your core values and they're the nearest and dearest to your heart and your goals, it is very easy to understand when you are not in alignment with those in your actions. The other thing I want to talk about quickly about leadership is ownership. This is very hard, but it is true, and this is what Kevin and I live by. And I while he was talking, I was thinking about this, like, what has made the biggest difference for us? Because I want to help you guys, and he wants to help you guys manifest what your dream is. We're literally living, breathing examples of what it's like to set a vision and actually achieve it, even though it was really, really difficult. And we made so many mistakes along the way. It's not even funny.
We made mistakes today.
Right.
Like for you guys that were in here in the beginning, we were figuring out how to set up the new setup. Like we are always making mistakes, always. And that's just part of if you're not, this is what I said this before. Number one, you should always be making mistakes.
Right.
The only time making mistakes is dangerous is if you're making the same ones over and over again, because that just means you haven't learned the lesson yet.
Right.
That's all. And it's fine to make mistakes. Make sure you're surrounded by people who understand that it's okay.
Both of us are genuinely uncomfortable right now.
Oh yeah.
If you know us well, you've already sensed that.
It's also warm in here.
It's warm. We've never done this before. The TV that we set up didn't work. This didn't work before we wanted to. Yeah. I forgot the HDMI cable that I was supposed to bring that he warned me in advance to do it. We got in here 15 minutes before. Here's the thing. We're still here. We still showed up. And I can't even tell you, 370 episodes, there's always something that we look back on and go, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. Making mistakes is proof you're trying. But there is the pursuit of better. And I think everyone does their best, but not everyone betters their best. And our best today is 10 times what it was 3 years ago, or 1,000,000 times better than it was when you saw us at 21 and 22. So I guess I'm just going to jump into this next principle. So you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So again, this is not about Kevin and myself, but we want you to start thinking about your associations. I'm getting very dogmatic about who I do and do not spend time with. Oh, I want to talk about ownership real quick. Okay. 20 minutes? Okay, thank you for that. We didn't even put the timer up. My goodness.
Jeff did.
All right, so everyone understands the first level of ownership and responsibility, which is you are responsible for everything you do. Okay? Yeah, I did it. That's my bad. People get that. The second one is you are responsible for everything you don't do. This is a hard one for people to understand. It was hard for me to understand too. Everything you should be doing that you're not doing is your fault. And I know that sounds hardcore, but it is the God-honest truth. If you're not living your dream, it's your fault. It's choices you've made up to this moment. If I'm not living my dream, it's my fault. If Kevin's not living his dream, it's his fault. The moment you get that, you will start making better choices. Okay, the third one. This is you are responsible for how you react to everything that's done to you. And so everything you say and don't say, think and don't think, do and don't do, believe and don't believe is your fault. You are the author of your own life. And honestly, when it comes to leadership, really getting that. Kevin and I, we're not going to go into details, but we've had some really heinous things happen to us or done to us. It was what we did in response to that. And we've made mistakes, of course, but without, again, going into details, Kevin and I very easily could have ended up nothing. And the reason why I say that isn't to talk about Kevin and I. It's to get you to see that the beliefs you might have about why we might be successful and you aren't is crap. It's absolute crap. We had every disadvantage in the book. Not everyone, of course, but many, okay? Many. And everyone has disadvantages, but you can turn it into your advantage by what you do with it, okay? So that's a huge leadership thing. Now, what's one of the things you can do to take ownership? I will admit wholeheartedly that I messed this up big time. For the first 25 years of my life, I have genuine regret about how poorly I managed my associations, okay? I finally stopped being around the persons, places, things, and ideas that are not congruent with my highest level, my highest self, okay? Now, these are the people that we now associate with. In the upper left, you've got David Meltzer. Kevin and I asked ourselves, who has helped us grow the most over the last couple of years? Okay. David Meltzer, Kim Spencer, shout out to Kim, amazing, amazing leader. Mark Metry, Emilia, and Taryn. These are the people that we've spent the most time with lately, other than obviously the hyperconscious team, the question that I want you to ask yourself is, oh, this is your slide.
Oh yeah, the whole thing was.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's no biggie.
Okay.
This is something I always talk about. I've talked about this before. I talked about this in the 5 buckets thing. Whether you know it or not, you're influencing others and you're also being influenced. Who is influencing you? Can you fully be yourself? That's always the question I ask, because if you can't fully be yourself, then you're not going to be able to accomplish what you want in that room. And that's why what Alan was saying, like if you're spending 90% of your time in a room with people who do not value who you are, you're not going to be able to spread your wings and fly. You're going to be hanging out there and you're going to be staying there because it's going to create too much tension for you to be who you truly are. What opportunities does your network present? We are so blessed to have the people in our, like Dave Meltzer, Mark Metry. Like Mark Metry is a TEDx speaker, Amazon Prime docuseries, top 100 podcasts in the world in almost every country. David Meltzer is the CEO of Sports One Marketing, one of the best coaches and speakers in the world, you know, one of the best business coaches in the world. He's so many things, but he always allows us to show up as the people we want to be. He's always challenging us. He always wants more out of us. He understands that we're going to fail. Mark understands that we're going to fail. We fail together, right? So I would ask yourself, are the people in your life right now the best for your future? Are these people going to elevate you to the levels that you want to get to, or are they the best from your past? If you say something like, yeah, but I've always known that person, best from your past. Yeah, but we used to do this, best from your past. Yeah, but we went to high school together, best from your past. Unless you can say, yes, they're the best for my future. Yes, they're challenging me consistently. Yes, I'm learning and growing and evolving when I'm around them. Yes, they make me a better version of me. Guys, I know it's personal. I understand that. But imagine if you had 10 people in your life that you spent a large amount of time with that weren't helping you, and you were able to trade that time, not those people, trade that time to 10 people that cared about you. They believed in you. They were ahead of you. How much different would your life look? It would be completely different. Completely different. So I just wanted to talk about that.
This is the hardest thing. I think this principle is the hardest thing in the world, because our hearts want to love and give. And there's this dance between what appears selfish and what appears selfless, and then what that really is. So for example, let's say Kevin and myself have a dream and we want to literally bring personal development to the masses, genuinely. If there's 2 people who want to spend time with us, let's say one of them is David Meltzer, just for the sake of argument, okay? And one of them is someone who doesn't know business or how to do that whatsoever, okay? We actually, if we want to stay congruent with growth and contribution at our greatest level, we actually have to choose Dave. This is such a hard concept to understand, because we all have family and friends we love from our past. I will tell you that I genuinely have done a poor job of this. And now that I'm around very congruent associations, I'm seeing the compound effect of being loved for who I really am. And it's unbelievable. So what if you staying true to yourself and having the courage to actually embark on your own unique epic journey and be yourself? What if you actually got more love, more fulfillment, more growth, and more contribution? In my personal experience, I left massive fulfillment and love on the table by not realizing this sooner. Be willing to be misunderstood. If you have huge dreams and goals and you want to learn, it's a Monday night at 6 p.m. and you're here listening to a PowerPoint on hyperconscious leadership. You are weird. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Don't let anyone tell you that this is wrong when you know in your heart that it's right.
And I just wanted to add quickly, the reason it's personal is because it involves growth. And again, that does not mean the people that you're quote unquote, distancing from, it doesn't mean that they're any less valuable. If you were in the NBA, or it's not even that, if you wanted to get to the NBA, if you wanted to be one of the best basketball players in the world, you would hang out with basketball players. Mm-hmm. It would just make sense. It just would. And nobody would question you. Nobody would. Because they'd say, yeah, it makes sense. You want to be a better basketball player? You're going to hang out with better basketball players. Right. Why can't it be like that when it comes to personal development? Right? Everybody out there knows something that you don't. Sure. Some people know stuff that you don't want to know. So spend time with the people who know like way more than you do about certain things that are going to make you better. Some people won't understand that. That's fine. That's totally fine. You're going to come across those people. But the people that do understand that are going to support you. And the people who didn't understand will eventually, I promise. I promise. And you can be there for them. You don't have to say like, oh, I told you so. You can be there and you can forgive and say, well, I understand. Some people don't see the dreams that I have.
Every room you're choosing to be in,
11 minutes.
you're choosing infinite possibilities of other rooms not to be in. So every time that you say yes to one thing, you're actually saying no to everything else. That's another huge, huge thing. So anchors and engines. Who's that person in your life who keeps taking the wind out of your sails? Who makes you feel icky? Who's constantly bringing you down without you realizing it. And then if you really ask yourself the question, is this person in alignment with my greatest level of growth and contribution? And you really had the courage to answer that question. Kevin had the great suggestion for me to do a journaling habit where I reverse engineer regret every single day. And I've been doing it. The first regret of the dying, Bronnie Ware's book, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it, is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. I have a question that I ask myself every single day now. Where was I not in alignment with my highest self? And I'm telling you, I've done that for probably 35 to 38 days in a row without missing a single day. Your perspective my awareness has gone way up about when I am and am not in alignment. And here's the thing. When your awareness goes up, you look at your past. And I have a lot of pain in my past about how outside of alignment I was, especially with this one. So again, please learn from my mistake. Please, please, please. You will thank me one day, I promise you. Hyperconscious question number 5. Are the people in your life best for your future or the best from your past? Again, that's Kevin's question. It's unbelievable.
Fire question.
It is a fire question. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, man.
Pretty good.
I grew it myself.
It's pretty good.
Folks, one thing I want to say too, make sure that you are asking yourself these questions and actually answering them. Having the courage to write the truth and write it down is going to change the game for you. There goes the water.
I always say this at the beginning of my speeches. It's not my job. Like, I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I don't want you to be motivated for a day and then say, the luster of that event wore off. I want you to ask the hard questions that when you answer, you have to make a change. That is the goal. Like, that's what hyperconscious is. It's asking yourself the tough questions that maybe nobody else in your life is willing to ask, or you've never been willing to ask yourself. You will not be able to answer them and stay congruent with yourself. Am I giving it my best effort? Yes or no? No. Okay, what can I do to do that? Am I being my best self? I always say, what would the best version of Kevin do? Would he do this or would he not do this? If he would do it, it's my job to live up to that. And if I don't do that, that's my own fault. And I have to take leadership. So this is our amazing group of people that joined us at Top Notch Live, an event that we co-hosted in January 25th. My goodness, it feels so long ago. Some of you are on this call.
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah, a couple of people are on this call for sure. But these are the people that we surround ourselves with. Like Alessandro, he literally flew from Italy to video the entire event for us and shoot pictures. Like, he flew from Italy to help us. And we met him one time, but we've stayed connected with him. I think that is leadership, right? He was willing to come out. Tiffany and her lovely boyfriend flew out from Kentucky. Like, that's a whole thing, right? Matt, my former roommate, and his girlfriend. Bianca, who has been with us since the beginning. Taryn, my beautiful girlfriend. Alex Hinkle. Mama helped us with the event. Alan and Emilia. Like, we have amazing people around us, but that also means that we've had to distance ourselves from people who aren't necessarily going to help us get to our goals. I told Alan today, like, you have to understand that sometimes you're going to have to be okay with taking a dip into the pool of, some days you're not going to be able to be your full self. That's okay. That's okay. But I think as long as it's like 90% of the time you're true, authentic Alan, Kevin, whoever you are watching this, I think that's what makes a difference.
Everyone in this picture is growth oriented. They wouldn't come to a networking event like Top Notch Live if they weren't. Surround yourself with people like that. One of the biggest mistakes I've made in my life is not surrounding myself with growth people. And now I have them all around me. And it's not even close. The old version of my life versus this version is not even close. And this is the biggest difference. Okay. Want to become even more hyper-conscious?
Wow.
Would you look at that?
Great work.
Would you look at that?
Great work.
Thank you. And any questions? We're going to open it up for questions here.
Also, I know we say this every week, but we are going to start doing one weekly email where we summarize everything we did in the week. We're going to put every episode we did with little blurbs about what you can expect to learn from that episode, and we will be emailing that to you guys. I know we started our emails like a year ago, and then we ended up stopping them because we were doing way too much. But we are committed to, just like posting in Hyperconscious Nation every day, we want to make sure that we're adding value all over the place. And then at the end of the month, we're going to be sending a monthly email of the top 10 things that we learned from that month, starting at the end of this month. So if you missed the podcast episodes, it'll be a summarization of what you missed and the best points from it. So if you want that, put your email in the chat box, and we will take it down and add it to the list, and we will send you guys. We're not going to send you guys a bunch of junk, I promise.
All right, what do we got for time, man?
Probably 6 minutes, probably 5 minutes.
All right, any last minute questions?
It went by so fast.
I know, right?
It went by so fast.
Leadership, man. Leadership. We got a question.
I cannot read that.
I can't either. Tiff or Amy, can you please read that? Because we
help the kids out.
Yeah, the screen is very small over there.
It's just an email.
Email. Okay, excellent.
I like
Everyone's putting their emails in.
We will not broadcast it over the air, so everybody knows your email. You get a bunch of junk.
Amy or Tiff, any questions? Anybody?
That's why I'm in here.
What was your favorite takeaway?
Hi, this is me, Cynthia.
What's happening, Cynthia?
Much. I think one of the takeaways that came up was your commitment to follow your passion. And I was like surprised with the fact that, you know, when you made that commitment, it wasn't easy. And there was a period of like, the vision came before the finances. Because in a way, I'm thinking of doing a similar change myself. And I'm like trying to model from different people in my life to see like how to make that more like reasonable, like prepare myself for that.
I think the preparation is super, like I wouldn't suggest anybody do necessarily what I did. Like I wouldn't do it that way because it puts a lot of financial stress on you. But I remember walking around the kitchen one day, having the least amount of money I've ever had, but feeling better than I've ever felt about myself because I felt valuable as a human. It didn't matter about the car. It didn't matter about, you know, the things that I once valued. I just felt like I made something of myself. And that was like a really good feeling. So I think that a lot of people focus on the money and they don't focus on the fulfillment, and they end up having the money and they don't have the fulfillment. I think if you start with fulfillment and you're somewhat financially stable, where you put yourself in a decent position, I think you're going to be happier, but it's still, obviously making money is one of the most important things in terms of paying bills, and especially if you're certainty driven. But I do believe that, I mean, I would do this for free forever. Right? Like I would do this for free if you could. Forever. If I could, if I didn't have bills to pay.
We talked earlier about a triad, and we only have 3 minutes here, but we talked about a triad, and we had a mini breakthrough earlier today when we were going to record. And it was, okay, you have some selfless goals of impact. You have some selfish goals of things you want to achieve. Then you have character goals. And how do you integrate those three into a triad? So like what Kevin and I realized is that at times when our selfish goals weren't being met, we still had the impact goals and the character goals being met. So we still felt very fulfilled. And so I think, unfortunately, in our society, we're taught from a very young age, I certainly was, to be a go-getter rather than a go-giver. When in reality, it's the integration of those two, I believe, that brings fulfillment. So hopefully that's helpful.
And the other thing too is, most people do not feel great unless they're making progress. If you don't decide in advance to make progress on your character and your level of fulfillment, you'll only be focused on the dollar. And I think that's where a lot of people are too. Like if you're focused on the dollar and you're not making it, you're not going to notice the fact that you're a better human being, that you feel more valuable, that you're more confident, that you feel like you're in alignment with what you want, that your level of fulfillment is higher. You won't get that. But easier said than done. Obviously finances are important.
Yeah, definitely. And that triad, I'll plan for that, like together with everything.
Character goals, selfish goals, selfless goals. And Evan Carmichael said this. He said, money should never be number one, but it also shouldn't be number 5. Money is very important. It's the lifeblood of your mission. And I think we were never taught that in school. So we want to change that.
Yeah. Any other questions quickly?
Somebody said in the chat that the best takeaway is that you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with.
That is a fact.
And that's why, I'm more jacked than Kevin.
Interesting. It's funny. Alan gets to show a picture of him flexing, but I don't get to show a picture of me.
I'm literally kidding. I don't actually believe that.
It's not fair. It's not fair. You know?
No, that is honestly, if I could go back in time and learn these principles, I would tell myself, honestly, I would, Alan, who around you is in alignment with your highest self? And answer that question. Have the courage to really answer it and go, you know what? Because you get in life what you tolerate. Persons, places, things, and ideas, right? You get in life what you tolerate. And I would just hate for you or me or Kevin to wake up 20 years from now and have regret. You know, like what could have been if I had gotten away from those negative people. So again, you don't have to cut them out completely, but I think reallocating time is everything. And when we look back and connect the dots, it's like, it's unbelievable how obvious it is to us now that it's the people we met. I mean, it's just blatantly obvious, you know, you can only connect the dots looking backward, not forward. But that's what I would do if I'm coaching someone who's 22. And I told him this, I said, listen, man, if I was 22 years old, I would want someone to tell it to me. I would say, honestly, you have huge dreams. It's obvious you have ambition. Please, pretty please, understand your core values, understand your goals, and get around people who are like you.
Pretty please.
Pretty please.
Pretty please. Any other questions in the chat, Amy?
Somebody just has their hand raised. Jay has his hand raised, so I don't know if he wants to ask a question or
Jay,
not.
what's up?
Hey, what's up? I just wanted to throw in there that 5%. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That really, really does make a whole crap load of sense when you think about it. And I mean, now that I'm coming up on my 31st birthday, just like you've been saying, Alan, if I would have known some of this stuff back when I was 17 graduating high school, I would be in a completely different spot right now.
Right.
And all of my associations kind of led me down the wrong path into, not going to get too deep, but just kind of took the road that I did not want to for quite a long time. And it took me a hell of a long time to climb out. So I think that's what I'm going to work on this week, is writing down who I can kind of totally cut out and who I want to just back off of and just keep there with a little bit of time less, I guess.
Get clear on what you want too, right? Because knowing exactly what you want as the end game is going to help you figure out, okay, these people, it's funny too, because you hear it all the time and you kind of just said it. Oh, I noticed he's hanging around the wrong crowd. People say that all the time, but however, how many times have you heard somebody say, I feel like he's really hanging around the right crowd? Most people don't say it like that.
Oh, that's fire.
Right? But you guys are in the right crowd. Like, you guys consistently show up to this on a Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wherever you are in the world, it might be different. But like, you guys are consistently showing up to be in a group of like-minded individuals. Like, this is amazing to us that we're able to talk to you guys, and that you guys, again, I always suggest masterminding outside of the group. Like, reach out on social media to each other, share ideas. You never know what somebody might be able to help you with. But the fact that we're able to jump on here and talk about what we love, and you guys love it too, it's like, there are people out there that want to help you. It's just a matter of figuring out, okay, do I have time for them, or do I have to reallocate my time?
Exactly.
Amy had a really great suggestion last week. She said to put your Instagram handle in the chat so that you all can connect with each other. We want you all to connect with each other, because a lot of people struggle to have growth-minded friends, and obviously you're growth-minded if you're in here. One last thing I'll say.
Quickly.
Yes, quickly.
Quickly.
I feel the same way you do. Kevin and I went to our 10-year reunion, and this is hard to say, but I want to give you guys the truth, and I want to be real. Okay? 10 years is a long time. Okay? The compound effect of bad decisions in your health, in your relationships, vices, alcohol, whatever it is, they start to really become noticeable 10 years out. Okay? If we start thinking of that now, imagine how much smarter your choices would be if you could really understand, like, who do I want to be 10 years from now? Even if you never get there, the choices you make today will be better. Life comes down to your choices. And I made poor choices about who to spend time with. It's on me. It was my fault, and I take full ownership, and I need to genuinely forgive myself and work on that. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to make those bad decisions anymore. I'm done with it.
We're 4 minutes over. Alan will Venmo all of you $4. Just just request them. We appreciate you guys so much. Again, this was part of the dream. Like, we've been talking about doing a mastermind on Zoom where we had people live and we went over fundamentals for a year and a half. The only reason this is happening is because we consistently focused on it. We set the intention, we paid attention, and now with COVID, it was like, this is a perfect time. Everybody's looking for more connection. Let's do this, right? Whatever you guys want, it's out there. It's just a matter of putting in the effort. You do not get what you want. You get what you deserve. Was that the thing?
What you earn.
What you earn. I
What
don't
you
know.
earn.
I'm fried. And we still have 3 episodes to do.
Yeah.
Guys, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And as always, reach out to us directly on social media if you need anything. We got you.
Please reach out to us on Instagram if you have any questions. I hope to hear from you soon. Talk to you all soon.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.